Good morning.
Good morning.
Just first, like to thank the interfaith community for being with us here this morning with, Governor Phil Murphy, myself, and the rest of the elected officials. I'm going to try to say everyone that's here. I'm inevitably going to forget someone. I hate doing this, but just want to thank Assemblywoman Tucker, Assemblyman Caputo, Assemblywoman Timberlake, Kevin Brown, SEIU 32BJ, Kim McNamara, CWA, Plainfield Mayor Matt in the building, Irvington Mayor Voss, NAACP President Deborah Smith Gregory, Carolyn Wallace, founder IYO, Altric Best from Hub, all of the council folks that are here today. I see Councilman James, Councilman Gonzalez, and I know the, Urban League in the place. That means we all good now, right? And I know the rest of the municipal council would have loved to be here today. They're probably going to make their way down here as soon as they possibly can. Obviously, we're here because we all want to celebrate on the 4th of July. We want the parks to be open. We do not want the state to shut down, and we really believe that it does not have to. We have incredible legislators. We have an incredible governor who, told us while he was running what his plans were. So none of this is a surprise to anyone. We knew ahead of time what actually was going to happen. He spoke in his first budget address and told us what he wanted to do, and we were all elated, excited, happy. We did a few victory laps because we knew that finally we were going to have a stronger and fairer New Jersey. We knew that the issues that were near and dear to us in the city of Newark and around the state of New Jersey were finally going to be addressed, that we would have a budget that spoke to all of our needs, just not a few of our needs, right? And we were happy for that, and we're still happy that the governor is pushing forward to make this happen. We know that there's a place to resolve this, and we want it to be resolved immediately, and we think that everybody should pay their fair share. Certainly here in Newark, we're paying our fair share, and we don't even have a share to pay. We have issues around education, around homelessness, around unemployment, long intractable issues that takes dollars and help and support to deal with. And this governor has been with us 100% of the way. So have our legislators, but this governor has been with us 100% of the way to get this done. And we believe that his budget, the ideas that he want to push forth is what we need, and we don't need gimmicks that'll kind of plug the holes, but 2 years, 3 years from now, put us back in the same situation we're in. We support the governor, our governor, 100,000%. With that being said, I would like to, and I'm excited to have the governor here in the biggest city in the state of New Jersey, and we intend to keep it that way. We are happy that he's here, and we want him to know that we support him. Our interfaith community is out and supporting strong, and we're praying for him in every language possible. To make sure that this thing's come out on the right side of history. That being said, he needs no introduction. Our Governor Phil Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, Mayor. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. First time I've been in this room, by the way. I hope not nearly the last. Incredibly honored to be here, and I'm incredibly humbled by the turnout of folks, both in the audience and standing with me. Elected officials, I'm not sure, Brendan, you got Freeholder President Brendan Gillis in the House, who ran our campaign and is one of my closest friends in this entire state. Freeholder Richardson, I'm not sure you got there, but members of council, mayors, thank you for coming out. Particular shout out to the legislators, to Brittany, Ralph, and Cleopatra for their being here today. They know this saga very well. Faith leaders, it means an enormous amount that you're with us today. And brothers and sisters of organized labor, this is a dark day, given the Supreme Court decision. And by the way, they're 2 for 2 this week because the Muslim country ban yesterday was another dark day. But this decision is an impediment to organize and undermine the ability to organize, which is at the very core, frankly, of the middle class notion of the American dream and of this state, a state that was built on the back of union labor and will be rebuilt on the back of union labor. It's a tough day, so I particularly appreciate our brothers and sisters from labor being with us today. Good morning, everybody, and again, I really appreciate everyone coming out today. I can't say enough good things about Mayor Baraka. Both the fact that you're standing here with us today, that means more than you know, in addition to the extraordinary work that you've done coming up to 4 years. I'm looking forward to being with you when you raise your hand up again on Sunday. This is a great city. Brendan and I ran the campaign from here. I'm here multiple times a week as governor. I have enormous affinity for Newark and its people, beginning with the boss. There's great progress being made here. This is clearly a city on the rise, and much of that is because of your leadership, Mayor, and council, and of the countless committed residents fighting every day for a better city. And my goal is to not just come up here today and often to celebrate the progress, but to have the state of New Jersey contribute to its progress in Newark as a full partner. The budget currently on my desk, which we got last week from the legislature, would make, and this is an important point to make, would make important investments in Newark and its residents. But the lack, as the mayor mentioned, the lack of sustainable revenues necessary to ensure these promises means everything we collectively want to do for Newark will be put at risk. Yesterday afternoon, I put a compromise budget on the table to the legislative leadership. That compromise would protect the investments we seek to make through the budget and ensure the promises made can be promises kept. And compromise is a word folks can define in a sort of narrow or a broad sense. In this particular sense, it's reasonable. I'm trying to find a reasonable common ground while retaining our absolute resolve in the commitment of the things we want to get done. But let me be clear. I'm not going to sell out New Jersey's future or Newark's future for the sake of a deal. I will not sign any deal. I will not sign an agreement that weakens our future. And that is what is at risk. Our shared values and priorities of stronger schools, better mass transit, safer communities, and a fairer New Jersey that invests in our middle class, in our urban communities, in our working families. Just listen to what's at risk for a minute, if you bear with me, if we can't find sustainable revenues in a sensible way forward. Here in Newark, it means an additional $43 million in aid, including for investments in pre-K for the Newark Public Schools, is at risk. Municipal aid for Newark generally is at risk. Needed charity care funding for University Hospital, Newark Beth Israel Medical Center, and St. Michael's Medical Center is all at risk. An expanded earned income tax credit for roughly 20,000 households here in this community is at risk. Funding for affordable housing, which Brittany and I spoke about yesterday, is at risk. A new child and dependent care tax credit that would benefit Newark's working families is at risk. We spoke about the $400,000 in funding for Newark City of Learning Collaborative at the Newark Public Library. That would be at risk. An investment of $750,000 in helping this city meet its goal of 2,020 new jobs by the year 2020 is at risk. More than $8 million in prisoner reentry and education programs are at risk. Not to mention our efforts to fix NJ Transit, upon whose bus network in particular countless Newarkers rely every day on. That is also at risk. And on and on and on. I could keep going. These programs reach into every neighborhood in Newark. We cannot do any of this without real and sustainable revenues. I cannot sign a budget that promises anything to Mayor Baraka and the people of Newark that I know I cannot see through to completion. Now, I know in my core our legislative partners agree, and I know the folks up here certainly agree. But unless we come to an agreement, I will be forced to decide between these programs I mentioned, all of them, some of them, in order to put this budget into proper balance. And I don't want it to come to that, let there be no doubt. I know Mayor Baraka doesn't want it to come to that either. None of us, I suspect, do, right? These investments are critical to this city and to your vision for a growing city. No one wants a shutdown. No one wants a vetoed budget that eliminates so many of these key investments that we know we need to ensure our future. And I am hopeful that the legislature will see this opportunity and that we'll be able to move forward in a timely manner. As the three folks in particular, I apologize, Cleopatra, I'm blocking your sunlight here. As you know in particular, it is particularly mystifying with the legislature, I think, having voted to take one piece of my compromise, in my humble opinion, the most obvious one, the one that everybody, as you said, we telegraphed, everyone saw coming, and overwhelmingly supported a millionaire's tax, which I believe you all voted for 5 times. That's the obvious solution here. And to think that it would be protecting 20-odd thousand millionaires, in exchange for that, we would have to gut the budget or shut the state down. That is particularly mystifying, particularly given how well the wealthiest have done over the past 8 years under Governor Christie and how well they're doing under our president. I never said it would be easy. I never said there wouldn't be sacrifices. But each of us knows that choosing the hard right over the easy wrong is the only way to achieve a better future, and it's the only way I will govern. The mayor and I both know the importance of honestly balancing a budget, just as we know the importance of ensuring that the programs and services the people of Newark rely upon are there for them. We still have time to get this done. The legislature and I could certainly come to an agreement by the deadline. And with that agreement, we can begin to get Trenton out of the mindset that it has been stuck in for too long. But without that agreement, I am prepared to do what is necessary. I am not here to play the same old games. Enough of the gimmicks. The people of Newark and the people of New Jersey deserve honesty, and they demand we treat our state finances honestly as well. We'll take a few questions. I think with that, we got that off our chest. We'll take a couple of questions here. Please.
Yeah, Governor, you mentioned the letter that you sent to lawmakers yesterday. You talked about changing the CBT. One of the limits you put on that was so that it wouldn't be the highest in the country. You also talked about a modest increase in the income tax. Can you be more specific about what you put forward to lawmakers about the level of the CBT?
We didn't get into levels, but it's a pretty clear discussion as to where we think the common ground could be. So a CBT that ends in 2 years and it's really high and would scare businesses off, that's not going to work. Something that's modest, that accomplishes the goal, that has a longer life, is something pretty clearly that we would consider. And as I mentioned a minute ago, and I'll repeat, the wealthiest among us, this is not class warfare, but it is tax equity and tax fairness. And that's the sort of discussion. I think folks understand where that could be. Yes?
Governor, under the plan you laid out in this letter, do you need a CBT surcharge in perpetuity, or are you open to something that's sunset?
I think something, my preferred plan, honestly, is something that has a longer life, but ultimately sunsets maybe to a level ultimately below the level it is at today. And the reason I say that is, and I think the mayor agrees with me, and Newark is ground zero for this, the upside in our economy in this state is enormous. The last administration, in addition to all the inequities, didn't do anything other than throw tax incentives at big companies, didn't do anything to grow the economy. We think we've got huge upside in the innovation and infrastructure economies, but we need time to get that growth to achieve that. And so there's a period of, Rome wasn't built in a day. We've inherited a mess. We can't get this thing turned around overnight. We're already making enormous progress. Our Deputy Chief of Staff, Joe Kelly, is here. That's his remit. We'll blame it on Joe if it doesn't work. Happily so, I might add. But we really believe there's enormous upside. So something with a longer life that gets back down to a more reasonable rate is something in particular I like. Please.
They suggested,
You're not going to ask me about being on the beach this weekend, right?
No, but I don't go to the beach. So. I think you said you're Irish skin yesterday, Mike.
Yes. That's why we're doing this indoors.
Yeah, it's much better.
Yeah.
But they said yesterday they might come back with another deal. Are you open to their overtures, or is this?
If it's reasonable and real, absolutely. We're going to convene again, I think, this afternoon. And again, this is not, we're trying to call balls and strikes. But I have to come back to something. And again, we've got at least in Ralph and Cleopatra, who know the history, we've got an obvious solution here that overwhelmingly is supported. That if we got a millionaire's tax, a lot of these other issues fall in the line, right? And it can be worked out. The stuff at the margin is work-outable. But yes, I said yesterday to them, and we remain open-minded, but they've got to be real, and they've got to be fair. And again, we're calling this notion that we're not supporting their numbers is kind of laughable. Charlie?
Have you gotten assurances from your core supporters that if you do bring down the line item veto on some of that funding, if that option is exercised, that they're going to stay with you? I mean, that you're talking about potentially, I think the number's up to $800 million in money sliced from the budget.
Yeah.
And have you gotten assurances that they're going to stick with you if you leave that kind of blood on the floor?
I don't know where the guy is who always asks me the same question from the Globe about counting noses, but about broader group. Yeah, listen, I feel we're not counting noses, but I just want to, again, okay, wait a minute. One side wants to make a historic investment in the middle class, urban communities, working families, to do it in a way which resets tax fairness and asks the wealthiest among us to pay their fair share and close corporate loopholes and undo gimmicks. The other side is going to stand either on behalf of cutting $800+ million of desperately needed investments or standing to allow the state to shut down because they're protecting millionaires. I'll take my side of that any day of the week. Max?
Can I just follow on that one quick question? If you do exercise the veto, that assuming the line item veto approach, doesn't that end the situation? I mean, there isn't a shutdown.
Everything is still at our disposal. But I've just characterized what the sides are at the moment. Standing on behalf of the middle class, urban communities, tax fairness, and standing for a brighter, stronger future in New Jersey. Or, and I got you, or I'm standing on behalf of millionaires, and as a result, we're going to shut the state down or gut the budget. Max? Charlie? I hear you. Max?
Governor, I just, again, wanted to ask the legislators who were there with you, just to be sure I understand why they're there. Mr. Caputo and others, are you, in fact, endorsing what the governor has now put on the table? He's put this compromise out there, which combines the millionaire's tax and CBT. I take it that because you're all three standing there, that you support the governor on his compromise, correct?
Well, Max, a good deal beats a bad war. And the fact is that the governor has offered a compromise, and hopefully the other people that disagree understand that we're trying to resolve this situation. The fact is that corporations can't be taxed to the point where they're going to leave the state. You know, corporations make these decisions, as I talked to you before about that, on the second when they feel it's not in their best interest to be here. We've already lost in the state of New Jersey many corporations, Roche and others, that have left big holes in municipalities. We don't even have a transitional aid program as a safety net for those corporations that could potentially leave. So, you know what? This has to be resolved. And the governor has taken a bold step in outlining his positions in terms of what's best for the state of New Jersey. And he's also outlined a compromise. You know, that speaks for itself. I don't see any compromises other than his, and I hope that sometime today that our legislative leaders will see that this is the best course, that we have to come together, raise the revenue that's necessary, and put this to rest. I don't want to go through another 4th of July weekend somewhere in Pennsylvania to eat because the State House is shut down, because the mayor here is going to get very upset that I'm not eating in Newark. I'm spending my money in Newark. And by the way, I couldn't be prouder of this mayor.
Amen to that.
Absolutely. I go way back in this town. I'm a child of Newark, and I understand the administrations that were here before him. He has done a fabulous job, and I'm proud of the fact that he knows what he wants, and he's supporting the governor in the way that he does. Our position, I'm not speaking for the rest of the legislature, is to make sure that we have some kind of merging of these ideas so that this governor can put this to rest and sign the budget for the best interest of the people of the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. I echo what Ralph said about Mayor Baraka. I also want to say to Mayor Voss and Mayor Mapp, it means a lot that you guys are here as well. you look at, you can say this literally, you look at the potential and the progress in Newark and Irvington and Plainfield, and you get a very immediate sense that as they go in many respects, so goes the state of New Jersey. So I'm honored they're here today. Anyone else? Where are we looking? Hi.
Hi, I'm Meg Baker, CBS. Now, today, again, New Jersey transit issues. How do you look at those people, tell them, those riders, that they may have to pay more to take that trip into the city each morning? Who will be to blame? We can't blame Governor Christie anymore if this budget doesn't get passed.
I'll try, though, by the way. I'll keep trying.
He didn't exactly leave us in good shape.
Yeah. Well, all kidding aside, we inherited a mess. So we did an event yesterday in Rutherford up in Bergen County. And, you know, I think NJ Transit is a totem for the failures of the past 8 years with sort of yo-yo investments that got down as low as a cut of 90%. So in fairness, when you're only 5.5 months in on the third largest bus and rail commuter system in the country, and it's been whipped around and neglected for 8 years, I actually will continue to blame the prior administration. Secondly, we put a budget out and an investment in NJ Transit, and we were crystal clear that with that investment, we would guarantee no increase in fares until June 30th of next year, so a year and 3 days. That's 368 for you watching at home. I hope we could stick to that. But if it comes to standing on behalf of millionaires and because of that, forcing our hand to gut expenditures or to shut the state down, both of which are on the table, then everything is at risk, including fares for NJ Transit. Please.
Believe it or not, I have an off-topic question.
Oh, Jesus.
I want to ask you about the Janus ruling, get your reaction to that.
Yeah, I mentioned it in passing just as you were coming in, but it's an awful day for organized labor. Kevin and I were just talking about, you guys agree, I assume, right? Kevin and I were just talking about it. Unfortunately and sadly, it was expected. It's at the worst end. I haven't read it. I just heard about it as I was coming over here. We just talked about it in private. It's at the worst end of the spectrum. So I'm happy that we passed and signed the Workplace Democracy Act in New Jersey. So that's going to allow us to mitigate some of the impact here. But this is, you know, in so many respects, we said this a lot in the campaign, we repeat it a lot in government because it happens to be true. In so many respects, folks in this state, in this country, walked through the union door into the middle class. That's sort of at the essence, at the core of middle class and the American dream. And this undermines it. It also goes to show you, man, elections matter. Because Neil Gorsuch casted both the balanced vote yesterday on the Muslim country ban and today's decision on Janus, and that's because Donald Trump is president of the United States. Anybody else, please?
Governor, can I just follow up on the CBT question? You mentioned that I want to make sure I understand, you were saying it might go up for a period of time and then go back down below the 9%?
I'm saying that's something, if we can get the economy going, that would be an ideal result, a longer dated, reasonable increase, and then if we get the momentum that we think we can get to say with conviction to the business community, we might be able to get this sucker down below even where it is today. That's an ideal result. Anybody else? I'm conscious of how warm it is up here, and I want to hold everybody. Please.
I just wanted to get an idea if you can clarify the modest increase on the millionaire's tax.
The millionaire's tax. I think our what we've said out there right now still stands. But if folks had a reasonable, credible response to our compromise, again, we're trying to be reasonable, but keep our resolve at the same time. If there's a reasonable discussion to be had, that's something that would entertain.
But it's going to be a smaller increase than what you're pushing for?
No, not necessarily. No, we'll see. I mean, I'd like to think we could. I believe, honestly, this is if people come with goodwill on all sides, and I have no reason to believe there isn't, but I think we can solve this in 30 minutes.
What's your schedule of negotiations today, tomorrow?
We're going to call the team in, the legislative leadership team in this afternoon, Charlie, and we'll see how it goes. We want to get their reaction to what we put out yesterday, and if they've got anything else they want to raise with us, again, we're open-minded, but it's got to be real and it's got to be fair. Mayor, you good with that?
I'm great with it.
Sorry.
I wanted to say one thing.
Please.
It just kind of bothers me that the tenor of this is that the governor can fix this by, in fact, cutting $800 million of needed services for working and poor people around the country, around the state, excuse me. And we are comfortable with that idea that he should, that is actually an option for him to cut all of these programs, which means that it'll hurt people in Newark tremendously. We can't have that discussion. That's not an option for us. And to put that on the table. To put that on the table as an option is unconscionable, and we definitely are going to speak out against that as loud as we possibly can.
So you don't blame the governor, you blame the legislature.
Well, I blame you for even raising it. No, but at the end of the day, I think that both parties should be aware of what the outcome can be, what the possibilities are, and that should be the thing that they're concentrating on. The thing that they should be worried about more is cutting these programs and services to working families in the state of New Jersey. That's the most important thing for everybody.
And it won't be that we like that. It'll be because they forced us to do that, because they're siding with millionaires. Thank you all so much, everybody. Well said. We got to put his mic